It is now time for our feature presentation. Spoiler warnings. It's time for our final film review of the night. This is the sequel to Train to Busan, Peninsula.
미쳤어? 거길 또 들어간다고?
You get the truck, come back with the money. That's $2.5 million per head. If you come back alive.
진짜네.
살고 싶으면 타요. 아저씨는 들깨생활 처음인가 보네.
죽이자! 조심하라!
숨바꼭질 무장! 야, 61번 빨리 안 나가!
야! 61번!
해가 지면 움직이자. 내가 또 나서야 되나?
죽여 그냥! 죽여!
잡아!
Alright, Dwayne, what you think of the sequel to Train to Busan?
So I'm not gonna say Train to Busan I was really hyped about.
Yeah.
I heard they made a sequel to it called Peninsula. I was like, oh well, this is gonna be good. And, you know, sometimes sequels are better,
Yeah.
not often. I mean, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 is better than the first one.
No. We could go maybe Wolf Creek 2. Something, you know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, I was looking forward to this movie. We had seen The Wailing, which was a really good movie. Train to Busan, which was great. And then we got Peninsula, which I think was not as good.
I liked it, but compared to the, you know, it's hard to follow Train to Busan, and it didn't really follow it that well. It wasn't a bad movie either. Train to Busan was a emotional, well written, well directed, you know, everything else film. This one was fun. You know, this was more of a fun film. And yeah, it did have emotional moments. But like, you can't really compare the moments to this one to the ones from the first one, because there's lots of moments at the end where it gets very emotional, and I wasn't nearly as attached.
No, I agree with you there. It's a fun movie. It takes place like 4 years after Train to Busan. They talk about like 4 years ago, South Korea got cut off because of infections and then getting loose. And how it starts off is how some people are trying to get onto a boat to leave, and an infected person is on the boat and infects the boat. And
Wait, I have a quick question.
sure.
In the first movie, Train to Busan, didn't they say it was worldwide?
I don't remember them saying worldwide. I remember them saying it had gotten out and stuff. But I think in this one they said it was just relegated to South Korea.
Okay.
But then as other countries were taking in refugees, it started to spread a bit. Like it went to Hong Kong and some of the other areas. They talked about going to North Korea and stuff like that,
Yeah.
taking refugees. And if you know anything about history, North Korea and South Korea don't like each other.
Nope.
So for them to take refugees it was kind of like
Last resort.
Last resort, taking in some people and stuff. But to go with what you're saying, it's a fun movie. I wasn't invested in all the characters as much as I was in Train to Busan. I'm not saying I didn't like any of them. There's some good characters in there.
Yeah.
I like some of the characters. But it was not as good as Train to Busan. It couldn't live up to the hype, and it actually was not as good as a movie.
Yeah, this movie was a lot of fun. It almost has the same exact plot. Have you ever seen the movie Army of the Dead?
Yeah.
You have? Yeah. The Netflix one?
No, I haven't seen that.
I know you're Amish. I was leading up to it that you don't have internet. You Amish fuck. Anyway, so there's this movie called Army of the Dead on Netflix. It stars Dave Bautista. And basically Vegas gets infected by a zombie apocalypse. They quarantine it. They have to go back in it to rob a casino. And that movie was a piece of shit. So, in comparison, Peninsula looked like Forrest Gump, and compared to fucking the other one, it's not Bautista's fault. It's the fucking guy who directed it. What's his name? Zack Snyder. Which is a shit. Anyway, the movie pissed me off. It was just like the last 20 minutes. He's like, let me wipe my ass and rub it on this camera. Anyway. So, compared to that, Peninsula looked like fucking goddamn, like a shining star. So they want to go, they know where a big supply of cash is. So they send a bunch of poor folks in Hong Kong over to South Korea to go get this stuff. And, of course, nothing goes right for these folks. And instantly, like, they get attacked by another group. They get saved by another group. One thing, Dwayne, I didn't like in this one, in the first movie, lots of zombie kills. And this movie, not a whole lot of zombie kills.
No.
Almost every character you meet doesn't get killed by a zombie. Like, most of them are by other survivors. So it's kind of, it's like, it's supposed to be a zombie film. Now, there is zombie kills, but it's a bunch of nobodies. And another thing I didn't like that I did like in the first one is it's like the redemption thing. Both of them kind of have a redemption arc. The first one is the dad trying to become a good father. And this one, it was a guy who was a military soldier, and he was trying to get his family to when they're evacuating everybody to Hong Kong or whatever. He was on his way there with his family, and on the way there, they see another family stranded on the side of the road, and he drives by them, and he leaves them. And then he takes his family onto the boat, which really doesn't work out for him because his sister and his nephew get killed on the boat, and it's just him and his brother-in-law left. And his brother-in-law blames him heavily and says he didn't do enough. It's like, okay, I don't know why nobody saw that one guy hibbying. He's fucking hibbying in the corner. I saw that shit a mile away. No one else fucking noticed that. Anyway, he feels guilty for not only letting his brother-in-law down, he feels guilty for leaving that family there. And after they get attacked by the group, he manages to get away, get saved by another group, which turns out to be the fucking family he left. And you think, oh man, that's the family he abandoned. This is going to be a huge plot point later. But halfway through the movie, he admits it, and she goes, oh well. And I was like, they could have really played on that a little more.
Yeah, she says like you were one of 31 cars that drove by us that day or something.
Yeah.
No big deal. You left us to die.
And I was like, oh okay. I feel like they could have really played on that later, because eventually her husband ends up getting killed. I guess he lived for a little bit, but he ended up getting killed at some point. Didn't really show it. And then his brother-in-law gets kidnapped by the rival gang, so they go over there to A, get the money back, B, get his phone to get out of there, and C, get his brother-in-law back. And they put his brother-in-law into like some kind of like a fight pit almost like a big arena, which was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. Was they put these people in this arena and they open this door and zombies run out. There's one zombie that's almost like a hybrid monster ball fusion zombie that's like this big mess of fucking zombies all in one. I was like, what the fuck is that? That was fucking freaky as shit. And that was kind of cool. So you're kind of rooting for him too, because he survived like the first round, and then they're about to put him into a second round. And then the main character comes back, tries to save his brother-in-law, and he gets him out there. And like before they can get out, his brother-in-law gets shot. I was like, why? What the fuck? What's the point of going through all that? They could have been home by then, And if I don't know, I was like, well, shit, his brother-in-law's dead. And so they leave anyway, which, if he didn't go back for the brother-in-law, they could have made a smooth sailing exit. So then they run, and then the crew's chasing after him. And another complaint I have, Dwayne, is during this huge car scene, I mean, you can tell almost everything's CGI here, and it don't look great. But, like, I'm not a big nitpicker. Oh, that almost sounded bad. I'm not a big person, I want to nitpick CGI a whole lot. But it did kind of look, you can kind of definitely tell this is heavily CGI'd. But even though, it was, there's some badass scenes with that car when they were driving around South Korea. Really good, cool ass scenes during that.
Yeah, when they're trying to escape and there's a car chase and everything, I'm thinking, okay, this car chase has been on for 10 minutes now.
Yeah, a lot of shit in the car.
Okay, so we're talking about this car scene, right? And yeah, you can tell it's heavily CGI, but we're talking like the car chase is like over 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Fast and Furious because they're driving and one of them's hitting the emergency brake and spinning and knocking out zombies and making turns. I guess maybe they have experience driving like that, but it's like, isn't it like a young girl doing some of that stuff
Teenage
too?
girl.
Yeah, driving like that.
I guess
expect a teenage girl to drive like that, but
I guess since there's nobody else on the road, she gets
Yeah.
a lot of experience.
But yeah, there's a pretty long. I thought it was long. I was like, how long is this chase gonna go? And I know it's got a purpose because you have to get rid of some characters, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's having someone crash and someone do this and that. And but I thought that drew on a little longer than it should have. And like you said, the CGI. I mean, I wasn't really interested in the big car chase.
Yeah, it was cool though. Like the scene was pretty badass, but it was quite long. Had some interesting like car moves. There's no way this car would be fucking standing after all this. But yeah, I mean they managed to get to. They're trying to get away with the money and they got this crew picking them up, and of course it's the last second they end up the bad guy ends up getting the money away, and he goes and they pick him up and instantly shoot him and kill him, and but then they're like, oh fuck, I guess they're gonna stay there and live there. And they're like, what are they gonna do? So at the very end, these people show up to save them, who they only really talk about in one other scene, and then they just happen to show up. I was like, I kind of wish they would have delved into that more, like, oh yeah, that's because I know the grandpa was talking about Jane at one point, and then oh yeah, that's from that one scene where he said he was talking to her.
He said he's talking to her on their radio, that Major Jane or something like that. And then Major Jane shows up right at the end to be the saviors. Yeah,
but then it looks like the mom got her leg hurt, and she's willing to sacrifice herself. You're like, oh god, it's gonna be like Train to Busan, where the dad sacrifices himself, and then they stare at her for 3 minutes, and she's like sitting there, and then like the kids won't leave without her, and she puts the gun up to her mouth like she's like, I'm gonna kill myself, so they know to go. And then at the last second, he goes, I guess I'll go save her. Yeah. And he goes there and kills all the zombies, and they get out of there. So, this one, it looks like they're going to do another sacrifice ending, sad ending, but it turns out pretty good. They all got away except Grandpa, who kind of got shot at the last second, which is
Yeah.
kind of dumb. That's one of my biggest complaints. Like, everybody got killed by a gunshot. You know, this is a zombie film. I get it. You know, there's all kinds of survivor versus survivor groups, and you know, but all the major deaths gotta be by another person. Nah, we don't have to do that. Dwayne?
Okay, so after I'm watching this movie for a little while, and I know it's not going to live up to Train to Busan, I think this is just a rehash of Escape from New York. The reason why I say that is they have to go in and get something. Of course, Escape from New York was going to get the president. These guys are going in to steal money. It was American dollars, so they could spend it like anywhere in the world. One of the best things I saw, though, was when they're going back there, and they're on a boat, and they're going by all the boats that had gotten infected. They had all the, they're like just sitting in the water. So it's at night, it's dark, and you see all these like ghost ships.
Yeah.
Just sitting in the water, having to navigate through them. And I was like, wow, all those ships had people get infected on them and stuff. They just abandoned them right there in the harbor and stuff. And that was a cool scene. It was really like,
it did look kind of spooky.
yeah,
Them
so
going in.
very spooky looking scene. But then they get in. They get separated, they get back together, separated, back together, they're fighting gangs of people, kind of like Escape from New York. There's a bunch of them that were on Manhattan Island, whatever, and they're gangs, they made their own gangs and how they're surviving and stuff, and then there's a big car chase at the end to get away. And there's arena fights like there were in Escape from New York and everything, so I mean, it just kind of, that's how I looked at it, was like, this is kind of like a rehash of that. It wasn't a horrible movie at all. I mean, there's some good scenes in it, but it was mostly, to me, it was mostly like a background movie. When I say that, it's like I'm watching it and I'm like, well, if I turn my head for 2 minutes, I may not miss a whole lot. I might, but I didn't think I did. Once in a while, I went to the kitchen or went to the bathroom or something. I did like some of the scenes. Like the car chase was a little girl at the beginning when she's trying to save the main character.
They did some cool stuff like an RC. As a light up. That was really cool.
Yeah, they had some cool scenes and stuff. They had some good things they thought of, but it just, I didn't think it was going to live up to Train to Busan.
Yeah.
And it did not.
Now, would you have liked this movie if it wasn't a sequel? I think I would have.
I think I maybe would have enjoyed it a little more. I thought I was just trying to, it's kind of hard to watch Train to Busan and then that right after it.
Yeah.
It was a little rough going from really good, heartbreaking, really well, almost perfect 9 out of 10 movie to this, which was a good, I'll tell you, my rating on it is going to be like a 6. I mean, it's a good movie. It's not great. I may go maybe 7, but I think it's going to be about a 6.
Okay. Man, I'm kind of torn. I thought the movie was fun, but I think it's in the bigger shadow, and I think it hurt the movie a lot. There was this, like I said earlier, the first one had this big emotional ending, and I felt like this one was trying to replicate it, but I don't feel like the character development was there for it to work. I don't know. It almost felt like it was trying to do that. And but I did overall enjoy it. Do you have anything else you'd like to add before I total up?
No, kind of like you said, I did enjoy it. I was expecting some emotional ending, and it looked like the mom was going to sacrifice herself, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
You did enjoy the character development with the main character, the people he came in with. Those other 2 people, like they were gone like 5 minutes after the kid. His brother-in-law, you kind of, it's got some character development on him.
Yeah, I kind of cared.
You kind of cared for him, but then he didn't make it that long after the arena.
No.
And then the family that helped him, you cared for them. You had some character out of them, but none of the gang that they were with. Even though they tried to make some development with the leader and his assistant, and then that sergeant and stuff. He didn't care for them.
No.
Not at all. The people that hired him to go in and get the money, he didn't care for that. Not at all. The main character in the family, you had some investment in him, but it was nothing. To me, it was nothing like the character development of all the main characters in Train to Busan.
Yeah.
The teenage kids, the guy with his pregnant wife, the dad, the sisters, the little girl, all that. Even the asshole in there, he had character.
Yeah.
He was just was a money grubbing, pain in the ass who wanted to survive and sacrifice everybody.
Yeah.
This one, you're like, well, that person got killed. That kind of sucks, but okay.
Yeah.
Not as much character development, I thought.
Are you leaving your final score on the 6?
I could take it to 7. I was leaning towards 7, and I thought about it. I said 6, but I'll go with 7.
Going with 7. All right. Here are my pros and cons for Peninsula. Fun, action-filled zombie adventure. Still pretty good writing and acting and directing. Still had its emotional moments. Not as sour of an ending as the first. Has a cool-ass arena pit. Cool driving scenes. Cons. Writing and story took a dip for the action. Kind of weak CGI. It was too much in the shadow of Train to Busan. Alright guys, I'm giving Peninsula 8 zombie monster fusion balls out of 10.